Wales and Argentina are also playing this weekend. Alongside like the British and Irish Lions tour, the Aussies and the French, Wales and Argentina should be, let's straighten you guys up a little bit, one of the more interesting series. It's only a 2-game series, but we'll certainly take 2 games between Wales and Argentina. The last time these sides met was back in 2018 on that tour of Argentina. I vaguely remember it. I mean, I've got the results here, which have been kind of a helpful reminder. 30-12 and then 23-10. That's before Ledesma took over as the Argentinian coach. It's when Warren Gatland, from memory, sent a rather, I don't want to say B team, but it was a youthful, inexperienced side, with the purpose of building depth for the 2019 Rugby World Cup, right? And they did really well. As I said, the two wins for Wales away from home. Was it Sanchez and Moriarty getting a bit... Was it Moriarty who kind of put a choke around Sanchez? Something like that. So there was a bit of bad blood, but they haven't met since then. So it should be a pretty fascinating one to see how these two teams go. Obviously, they've both got new coaches since then. Ledesma's in charge of the Pumas and Pivac is in charge of Wales. And they also had differing fortunes last week, with Argentina kind of struggling to a 24-17 win over Romania, whereas Wales 68-12 was pretty bloody convincing over Canada. You would have thought both of these sides would put their relative opponents to the sword, but it was only really Wales who got it done. And even then, I just watched the All Blacks beat Tonga by 100 points, so I wasn't thinking 68-12 was too bad, but in hindsight, it's a pretty good performance for Wales and a bit concerning for Canada. But anyway, they are 23rd in the world. We won't go on about that one. We'll go over the sides. I'll put them in the description and some of the stats and predictions, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on how this one is going to pan out. Wales' lineup is actually remarkably stable. Smith, D, and Lewis is the front row. Ben Carter, who I think was man of the match in his first cap for Wales, which is pretty phenomenal. 11 from 11 tackles for him last week. Rowlands had like 49 run meters, running riot in the second row, so it's a pretty good looking type 5 without some of the kind of more familiar names who are away with the Lions. Moriarty, Botham, and Wainwright is the same back row. Wainwright had like 86 run meters. There's a reason, you play that guy number 8. He's just so athletic. And Moriarty back with the old foe that I think got him a yellow card back in those days. Yeah, we'll see if they're able to get under his skin, if they can remember that one. Hardy's at 9. He's up from the bench, which is good to see. That does mean Thomas Williams does drop to the bench, though. I'm kind of happy either way. I like both of those halfbacks. And Sheedy is there at number 10. How did he go with his goal kicking last week? I can't actually recall. I got that game of Bristol stuck on my head where he missed a few goal kicks, and you would hope that he's kind of got the radar boot going this time. Jonathan Davies is captain. He's at 12 alongside Halaholo, so that's kind of same as last week. Owen Lane is in at 11. Jonah Holmes had a bit of cracking game last week, didn't he? Scored a couple of tries, 3 clean breaks, 83 run meters, pretty bloody good. And obviously at fullback they've had to make a change with Halfpenny having a long-term injury layoff. That was brutal. Hallam Amos is there at 15. So yeah, it's pretty stable. They've not kind of done a big shift in the squad like we've seen between like England when they played in their first game, second game, Ireland first game, second game, much changed lineups. This one's relatively stable. Likewise for the Argentinians, the squad that played against Romania is pretty similar. Tetes Chaparro starts, Montoya's there at hooker and he is captain, and Cordella gets a start at tight head. Petty's back in the squad at lock. And I will say it a million times, he is one of the better line-out stealers in the world. And I know Rowlands has been around the block for a wee while, but in terms of caps, I think he's still relatively light, and Ben Carter is still very much new on the scene. I mean, it's obviously not just the locks that jump for Wales. They've got Lucy's that can do it as well, but Petty will look to make their life miserable. He is just very, very good at pinching opposition line-out balls, so that's going to be potentially a key area for Wales. Krem is there alongside him in the second row. Matera, Issa and Bruni is a pretty phenomenal looking back row. Issa and Matera are both very athletic guys. Matera's good at getting over the ball. And Bruni, who's maybe the least well-renowned of the three, probably had the best game last week. Did Issa come off the bench or was he... I don't think he started. Did he? If he did, he had a forgettable game because it was Bruni who was trucking it up. 43 run meters and 3 defenders beaten. I had to look it up because I remembered he was good. Cubelli and Sanchez is 9-10, so that's the same. De La Fuente and Moroni is 12 and 13. That's the same. De La Fuente, apart from his handling, ball running and defensively was looking pretty solid. Cordero shifts from fullback to the left wing. Carreras is in at the right wing, and Mallía is there at fullback. So there's no Imhoff, no Delgui. Mallía, I think I've only seen him play in the midfield, so that's an interesting one that he is now at fullback. Chocobares comes into the squad. Alemano is there as well. Lavanini drops to the bench. Miotti, Bertranu are still there as well. So both of these sides are looking pretty handy, I will say. I mean, I know Wales are without their biggest of big guns, but their arsenal is still pretty deep, and that's maybe partly what Wayne is building, but also what kind of Warren has left them with some of the depth guys there. Like I seem to remember, was Amos on that 2018 tour as well, alongside Moriarty? Probably a few of the guys, to be fair. And yeah, the Argentinian squad's got depth that it never used to have as well. Last week, Wales were able to generate 33 defenders beaten, which is phenomenal. The Argentinians had 19 against Romania. But clean breaks against Canada, Wales had 17, which is a lot. Whereas the Argentinians were only able to get 5 against Romania. So the defensive shift the Romanians put in was actually quite good. Maybe it's one area the Canadians were a wee bit lacking, falling off a few tackles. Likewise, the Argentinians, 14 turnovers conceded in their game against Romania. Their handling left a lot to be desired. Wales conceding 15 penalties also leaves a bit to be desired last week. But Argentina had 13, so not a whole lot better. Average score over the last 5 games between these sides, it's pretty comfortably Wales, 26-12. And Wales have had 4 of the last 5, and they are all the most recent 4. The last time Argentina's had a win was back in 2012 when it was 26-12. So a long time ago, almost a decade. So, yeah. Bookies have got Wales by 6 points. The Rugby Forecast algorithm goes a bit more bold, and it says 14 points for Wales. I'm sure they would take a 14-point victory. Without their British and Irish Lions, maybe that's not taken into account by the algorithm. But anyway, why do I always look a bit blue when I'm wearing the Argentinian gear? I don't know. Anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts on this one. How do you think it is going to go? It should be a cracking game, as I said. 6th against 9th in the world, so that's a proper tasty clash. Very much looking forward to it. You guys let me know your thoughts. I'll talk to you guys soon. See you later.